Friends, 1137 days of war. I have been briefing again and again about the trade war that is now engulfing the global market. But nonetheless, before we see what is happening in war zone in south, in Zaporizhia Oblast, Russians' offensive operation continuing near Kamenskoye. In other parts, that is further east of it, in Velika Novosilka, Russians are aggressively advancing on almost all the fronts northwards. In east, that is Kurakhu and Pokrova sector, things are moving now. Russians have taken over initiative, and most of the counterattacks by the Ukrainians have either failed or have been forced to reverse back to their earlier positions. Russians took over Uspenovka and further advanced from here on 1.5 kilometer by 1 kilometer near Bogatir area. They have also captured Rozovka, that is Alexandropol in Pokrovsk. Now, in other sectors, Ukrainian channel reports, as per them only, Russians regained control over Peshanoe and Katlin near Udakne in northern part. Shevchenko is already under Russians, and they also attacked northwest of Peshane in Zaverivo area. The Ukrainians did carry out counterattacks in Dakenskoy and Zeleny area, Zeleny in the northeast. However, no success. Russians are also advanced towards Ukrainka, and now they control most of Lysivka as well. Positional battle continuing in Suki Yari area. Coming to Toretsk, positional battle by and large, Russians have made some gains towards southwest of Toretsk, while in Chasiv Yar, Ukrainians made some marginal gains in southern Chasiv Yar, and in Siversk, Russians' offensive operation is continuing in below Horivka and Verkhno-Kaminsky area. No gains. Coming to northeast Ukraine, towards Liman direction, Russians control Yampulovka and they made gains in northern Torsky, Kolodets area. They also gained, while in Kupian sector, Russians advanced in Kamyanka in southern part towards the west bank of Oskol river. No changes in north of Kharkov, that is Slobozansky direction, either in Liptsy or Volchansk area. Coming to Kursk, Sumy, Belgorod regions, Russians took over Basivka, which is in Sumy, adjacent to Sudzha district. They made further gains towards Oleshnya. In Belgorod, Ukrainians are continuing their offensive operations with reinforcements towards Krasnoyarsk area and towards Demidovka and Popovka. No gains, however. Interdiction missions. Ukrainians launched more than 4 dozens of fixed UAVs, though maximum of them got destroyed over Voronezh, Belgorod, Kursk, Samara, Bryansk, etc. Russians also hit hotel in Krivoy Rog restaurant, which claims to have killed 85 people, mostly foreigners. However, Ukraine claims that many civilians, including children, were killed in this. They also hit targets in Kiev, Zhytomyr, Sumy, Vinnytsia, and Cherkasy. Now, coming to Sudan, so far we have been talking about the war between Sudanese armed forces, that is SAF, and RSF, that is Rapid Support Forces, which has become as good as any army with the help of Western supports. In the last month, almost at the end of the month, that is in March, they had joined SPLM, which is Sudanese People's Liberation Movement, earlier known as Sudanese People Liberation Army, which was formed in 1983. And though they had earlier some form of ceasefire agreement with the Sudanese armed forces, but now that is broken. And with these two combined forces, They have started advancing in south of Blue Nile and Kordofan governorates. They took over few establishments here. In Kordofan, in south, they took over Khar el Dalil or Dalib and Fayyad on 1st April. However, Sudanese armed forces retook the last named city. I do not suspect a major reversal of what Sudanese armed forces have been doing, but let us wait and watch. In Yemen, US airstrike is continuing, trying to break the backbone of Houthis, which only time will tell how much they succeed. Or are Americans ready to take over Iran also in this? Lately, we are not hearing much about the so called ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine with the brokerage of US imperialism. However, something is happening underground which we are not aware quietly because USA somehow wants to save its face where it has been helping NATO and Ukrainian armed forces to build since 2014. Let us see how the entire thing unfolds. I hope for the peace, and that makes an end to my talk today, friends. Thank you.